My name is Dr. Mary Mugwa from the Department of Educational Management and Curriculum Studies, Mount Kenya University. I'll be facilitating this course. Thank you so much for choosing Mount Kenya University. This is the university to be in, and I can assure you that you're going to get all that you need. I have to appreciate you a lot for joining the Master of Education class, because we always say a true teacher is the one who reflects on the knowledge they have, and once they get that there's a gap in them, they want to learn more, because a good teacher is the one who is oriented to research, to more knowledge, so that whatever they impart, whatever they do in the area of education can be so perfect. Remember, we deal with human beings. And what I say about my student, that actually we are not co-workers, we are with God, we are co-creators. I don't know whether we get the difference between co-working and co-creating. And why do I say that we are co-creators? It's because they say if you give me 7 children at their very tender age, I can decide who will be what at the end of the day. And therefore, it is good to understand the power of a teacher and also the power in what they say. If you constantly tell a child that you'll become a professor, that gets into a child, and the child will keep on working hard to ensure that they get to where the teacher believes that they should be. And therefore, that is why once we sit down and evaluate ourselves, it is important that we come back and see how well we can be a refined mirror for ourselves and for our students as well. Our course, our unit, it has a code, very important, our students, that we have codes. And this is MEM 5233. That's the unit code. And the unit title is Management of Higher Education. And the moment we see the title again, this is important for us to pay emphasis on why was it like it was called the Management of Higher Education. I believe this is not the first time you are being introduced to management, and you have learned a lot about management. You have talked about classical theories in management. You have talked about the processes by fire. And I believe by now you understand what we talk about management. And I believe if I start asking you, you quickly start by planning. You can go to organizing. You can, all the way coordinating to the very final one. And therefore, when we talk about the management of higher education, it's also good to understand what is it that we call higher education. Which are these levels? And the basic way we can talk about higher education is any education, whether formal or informal, that's beyond basic education. For example, in Kenya, we understand the basic education goes to Form 4. And the moment you get to Form 4, any other kind of education, formal or informal, that you get after this, then can be said to be higher education. So we just want to see how can you manage higher education. And we have our course outline. And in our course outline, we have the unit credits, 14 lessons, 3 hours per lesson, and that adds to 42 hours. You don't have to have had any other course for you to undertake this, and that is why this is one of our units that we offer to our first sessioners. Delivery methods, right, not for what we are going through now in Kenya, COVID-19, that is asking us to stay at home so as to be safe. Actually, these are the ways that we normally do lectures, tutorials, seminars, and all these. But it's still okay because we can still reach you. Most importantly is to understand about the online discussions. We'll be doing a lot of online discussions. I know you'll be oriented on how to interact with us. And it will be required of you that we do a lot of interactions. We have good classroom discussions. If you have a question, you can always pose it. You'll be shown where to pose it, and we can always discuss. If you need your lecturer to do something, the lecturer, for example, I'll be facilitating this course. I'll be able to give you my details, and there's no problem of interacting with your lecturer. I don't like it calling disturbing, because when you disturb, then it's a, it's a negative connotation. But I always say it's about discussing so that all of us can benefit from the course. Then what's the purpose of the unit? Is to expose the learners on issues related to management of higher education. There are so many things. For example, when you think about the university and the areas that need to be managed. You can imagine about the maybe tasks like curriculum and instruction. You can think about the students management. You can think about the staff management, both teaching and non-teaching. You can think about financial management. You can think about the community management. You can think about physical facilities or infrastructural management, and there's so much that we can think about when it comes to management. Then the issue of course assessment. Now it's no longer the 30 that you used to have when you are a graduate. It's 40 for your CAT. You'll have two, a CAT 1 and a CAT 2. Important to say that all your CATs will be sent online, and we'll be able to give you the deadlines to do these CATs. Kindly keep yourself on the online platform so that you can get any announcement that has been made. You can just get to know when to do your cards. Please, we reduce the issue of extend the deadline. It can be done with very genuine reasons, but it's also good because at this level we expect that we can now at least try and meet our deadlines. The exams is out of 60, which is a good thing. Expected learning outcomes, we have by the end of the course, the learner should be able to understand the development goal of higher education. Which are the development goals? Which are these goals that we are talking about? Appreciate the relevance of resources in meeting the goals of higher education. What is the use of resources? As I've talked about many resources. I've talked about instructional resources. I've talked about, and when I talk about instructional resources, I'm interested in issues with research. I'm interested in issues with the library, the learning materials. How are they offered? We have talked about the human, both the students and the facilitators, the lecturers, others who are in management, also doing administrative jobs. We have all these we have talked about. Also the infrastructural resources, the classrooms, how big are they? How well are the students fitting in? How are their movements from one class to the next is very important. Explain the current issues in higher education in Kenya today. Wow, important to discuss the current issues. We are faced by many issues when it comes to higher education. Financing is still an issue. We cannot just ignore that. Access is still an issue. And actually, like now, we have just had that, the students are being asked, the selection has happened, provisional selection, and there are those who are being asked to change the courses and so forth. So there's also that issue about access we cannot ignore. We can also not ignore about the issues of gender equality and equity. We cannot also not ignore issues to do with other issues that like insecurity issues. We know of a university that was actually attacked. We have, there's so much of this that we'll need to talk about. Then prepare managers in administration of higher education. I believe chances will come when maybe some of you will be managing the universities, and you need this information just to understand. Once you join a university, how are you supposed to behave like, if you are a dean, if you are the VC, whoever you become, how are you supposed to behave? Topics to be covered, we'll be looking at the overview of higher education in Africa. And it's important for me to say this because at this level where we are mastering, I always like to say this, that when you are an undergraduate, we concentrate more on giving you the concepts, the explanations are too much. But once you come back, you are mastering what you have already gone through. And what is the advantage of this? That you are not quite introduced to new things. These are things that you covered in your undergraduate time, and this is also something that you have even experienced. You are more experienced, and therefore a more kind of a discussion here comes quite in place. And this is why I'm saying I am not here just to read these things out. It will be such a discussion. Mine is just to give an overview of what is it that is expected, so that at the end of the day, though I'll attach the materials, we are on the same page. And when we talk about the higher education in Africa, there's one thing that I would like my students to understand. Once you have looked at the, we have to give different development of higher education from different countries. But more important also, we have to zero in to the development of higher education in Kenya. And maybe we can even, as you discuss this, don't forget as well, we have also the commissions, okay, the commissions that I've talked about, the development of universities and so forth, you know, and it is also important just to trace back, even the a bit of view of the universities that we have, the higher universities that we have, the university, how did they come in place? And this is why I'm saying here, it is not about like I sit here and I start saying, you know, so and so suggested that we should have the second university, or maybe KU was a constituent of University of Nairobi. These are things that I expect us to be reading, and more we discuss, especially when we get to our online platform. Issues in higher education, as I have talked about, there are quite a number. We'll be highlighting some of them, and I believe we can add more. For example, the emerging issues now. There are so much, like the diseases that we are talking about is an emerging issue. There are those who are supposed to have completed their school by, maybe they are supposed to have been moved to another level. Here we are, but still doing very well online. Examination, maybe in many universities, are not being done. Of course, are not being done. They have been put on hold. And what is this? As a manager, how do you address these issues once they come on board? How do you address them? Then we are also talking about governance in higher education. And we'll be giving different examples, because as I have said, you can see it's about education, higher education in Africa. We can give different governance, and we can come up with a structure. Who is at the top? How does it go? Is it the chancellor? Then after the chancellor, whom do we have? What is their roles? And maybe this is something that I would like you to think about, and maybe come up with different kind of structures in different universities. I can advise you can come up with maybe one from Kenya. You can come up with another one from Uganda. You can come up with another one from, you know, from this, especially from Africa. You can think about Ghana. You can think about any other. And more so, for example, also how I would like you to look at this. When you look at Kenya, is it possible also you have these two scenarios? You have maybe one for the private universities and one for the public, and we see what are the similarities. Are there similarities? Are they the same? Is the structure the same? Is their duties the same? What is the difference, if any? Then centralization and democratization of higher education. And we understand when we talk about to centralize things, we have one point where everything is done from a single point. And anyway, when we think about it, yes, there's bit of this, especially when it comes to management, that there are some decisions that has to be made, you know, by the management, others has to be made by the Senate, and you find that some of the decisions, however much you may want to do other things, they are controlled at a point, they are controlled at a certain point, and this is what we'll be looking at. What are the advantages and sometimes the disadvantages of this? Then, of course, there are, when we talk about the democracy of doing things, democracy, to what extent do we allow this democracy in higher education, and to what extent do we also curtail the same? Financing of higher education, and we can trace back about when we talk about the financing of higher education, when did we start, especially in Kenya, when we talk about cost sharing by Kamunge. You know, when did we start? Did it start there? I don't think so. It started a long time ago. And how are we being affected even today when we talk about financing of higher? We have also other bodies, for example, like HELB. HELB has been quite in place to help the students when it comes to financing of higher education. What kind of challenges do they face as they do this? The parents also, as they step in, the government also as it steps in and finances this education. What are some of the challenges that we get? Also, again, the university goes again to the management that we talked about. There's further reading, and therefore we go to topic 1. As I have said, for the master's class, here we just highlight issues, and we are saying we have an overview, and we have that university in the Africas are thought on the idea of development. It's important that when the idea of the universities were coming up in Africa, the whole thought was about the development. How can this higher education bring about development? And the reason is this is because this is where all the skills are, this is where you get all the research is done, and therefore it was hopeful that this education, which is still the same thing today, that the education offered at higher education would bring about development. Higher education in Africa has significant role to play. I have already said that in African development. And I have to say universities were affected in 1980s, and this is when the resources were redirected to primary education or to basic education, the primary education then. But then what we are saying is that, you know, I wasn't lucky to be there then, but we understand there was a time these students used to get a lot of money, the boom they talk about, they would be fed very well. But at one point there was a change, there was a paradigm shift. And actually now the much education, the much finances were redirected to primary school. And we are saying the UNESCO sponsored the first African-wide conference in higher education in Tananarive in 1952. Wow, pronunciation can also be crazy sometimes. And this paved the way for the creation of Association of African Universities in Khartoum. Then the World Bank was the major source of the external funding. Important to understand when we are talking about the funding here, that we are talking about that used to do this in around 1989. Then the university gained in the dawn of 21st century with changes. There was changes in the 21st centuries. There was the internationalization of higher education activities, policies, and planning. Then there was the formation of the African Union Commission, and there was also the implementation of the Pan-African universities. What is higher education? When we talk about higher education, it refers, as I said earlier, to all formal and non-formal education and training offered after the basic education cycle. And as I have said, different countries, they have their different basic education cycles, you know, to the whichever level they are, the many years they spend. But I have said in Kenya, to the Form 4. And you can see, when we talk about higher education, in most cases, you'll always find people will jump into looking at the higher education as only the university education. But look at what we have here. It comprises of middle-level institution and university levels of education and training. They could be the teacher training, the technicals, colleges, the secretarial colleges, you know, all these institutions offering pre-university academic programs, or private and public chartered university and government institutions offering maybe commerce and other development skills. So most important, because you could even be having more examples, is just to understand that when we talk about higher education, we are simply talking about formal, informal training that comes after the basic education. We also have look at this, the steps of higher education implementation, what we call smarter balanced assessment system. Okay, and we have in step 1 and 2 that there is you establish higher education common core state standards. There must be these standards. What are the standards that you look forward to achieve? Very important. Then you also look integration of the same steering committee with the existing laws. Is what the standards that you are going to come up with, are they in line with the existing laws? Very important. You don't want to go against or to contradict the laws. Then identify all higher projects, management staff. You also need to have the management staff that are going to do this. Then document context and history. You have to have the history of your university. You have to have all these. Establishment of higher education goals, very important for you. You also have to create a set of operating principles, and this is why you'll find that they'll have the policies that actually governs. In every higher institution, there are policies that governs the university. Construct the critical paths for reaching the state goals. And when we talk about this construction of the critical paths of reaching the state goals, we are simply talking about you have the vision, you have the mission, you have the core values that will really help you to achieve all that. Then we are also talking about creating definition of college readiness. How ready are you? You know, as we said, and we know this is normally quite, you know, evaluated, is assessed, is monitored by the bodies. For example, in Kenya, we have Commission for University Education CUE, that they have to make sure, are you ready? Are you ready? You know, do you have what it takes? Do you have enough physical facilities? Do you have instructional resources? Do you have the staff? Do you have all that is required? Are they enough? Are they enough? And you have seen that actually some moves that are going on with our current CAs is actually encouraging the students to, the universities to consolidate these campuses. So at least they can get a campus that meets that readiness. Draft, they should have a plan of what they are going to do. They should have create the core messages, establish communication plans, how will they be communicating. Then there's consider statewide or regional convening to share information and build support, very important, including partnerships. Get the state engaged in smart, balanced, such that now the state understands what you're able to do. You can also implement the plan, which is also part, make corrections where necessary, and evaluate what you have to make it work for you. Current issues in education, and when we talk about the current issues, we are talking, this is, as I said, when we talk about higher education, remember we have said that the first thing, the whole idea was to look at the higher education to overdevelopment. And to over this development, we are saying that this is where we have skilled staff, we have the research being carried out, we have all that is required to ensure that the government, there's development going on. And one of the issues that is facing us is the issue of research deficiency. It's a sad story. When we talk about that, we are still facing this issue of research deficiency. And how does it face us? So number one is the attitude. Sometimes it's just the attitude that people don't want to engage in research, serious research. You know, they just don't want to engage in serious research. Then again, we have also found that even some of the students, they're able to get work done by other people, which is still such a challenge. Other times is also when we have very outdated kind of research that is being carried out, that is not likely to bring out any new knowledge in what we are having. Financing of research also has become a problem. And therefore, at the end of the day, we find that very little is being done. And you can remember that there was one of our governor who posed a question and said, are we still waiting for people from outside to come and bring in this whatever it is that can curb COVID when we have professors? I think he talked about professors and doctors in the country. And that's a huge challenge. That's a huge challenge. How well are we competitive? How well are we competitive that we can be able to come up with this? Then deterioration of education standards. This is also something. Sometimes there's a difference between quality and quantity. And sometimes we go, sometimes you'll find the higher education will go for masses. Duplications of, sometimes even the courses that are being offered, you cannot exactly tell the difference between one and the other. Sometimes it's about the teaching methodology, which are not even quite okay. Sometimes it's about having lecturers who are moonlighting, and therefore they don't even give time to their learners. And therefore, at the end of the day, what do you find? That we have, yes, engineers who cannot do anything from the universities. We can also, we have people who cannot actually perform what they have been able to train in. And this is the problem we are talking about. Policies and their implications. We have many different policies that governs higher education. How well do they address the issues that are facing us? How well are we falling in line with them? Actually, the question I even asked, how many of those who are in the university are able to tell the policies that we have so that they can act within the policies? Or are the policies just there and they actually not quite address what is going on? Then weak academic research activity, that one is covered from research deficiency, but maybe what I can talk about weak academic research is what I've just said. The common things that we know about. There's no new knowledge. People are just writing papers just to make sure that they can get promoted, which is a big mistake that we are doing. The whole thing is that we are supposed to identify what is it that need to be addressed and take serious research that can actually bring out problem solving and development and also the knowledge. Weak institutional capacities and inadequate funding. Yeah, capacities in terms of skills, capacities in terms of numbers, capacities, you know, all these capacities are, as we talked about, in terms of finances, capacities in terms of physical facilities, capacity in all things. And you find that sometimes you may find that you are lacking a person who is specialized in a certain area. And you find that maybe because you're in a university, anyone can teach anything, which is actually not quite good. Then again, about the capacities, you're also talking about what I talked about, moonlighting. You find that a certain university doesn't have enough, and so people keep on moving up and down. And therefore, you find that the mother university does not get enough, neither wherever they are going. Inadequate funding, as we said, because sometimes maybe the much that is given is not enough for them to carry forward, for them to cover everything that need to be covered. And this, as I said, can affect other things that are in the university, including all the tasks I talked about. Inadequate capacity and a history of neglect. Yeah, of course, we understand some of them. Other than, you know, we find that there are some universities, the only things that they carry out is just about the name, but nothing much. The glory is lost. The glory is lost. So that is the end of our topic 1. We move on to topic 2. Issues in African higher education, and we are saying again, this is more of what we have, is more connected with what we have said. Issues in African higher education, according to education experts in 1992, include missions of higher education lacked African cultures, you know, because of maybe, you know, what I would like to call it neo-colonialism, or maybe being brainwashed, or maybe because of our history of being colonized, that we find that maybe it's the kind of education sometimes we offer, there is a thin line on how to contextualize our issues as we teach. Sometimes we just find that what we are teaching lacks the African culture in it. Disoriented enrollment in only certain disciplines. Yes, you find that in some of the disciplines we have overstaffed. You know, the students are there in masses, but in others you find that you find 3 or 4, and this is what we are talking about: disoriented enrollment in only certain disciplines. And you find that maybe some of the disciplines that could also be very helpful in bringing out development are also neglected. Poor women access to higher education. This one we can't say that now it's very bad, but still we are not very well balanced. We find that still we have imbalances in gender, that women, because of many issues to do with culture, many issues to do with how they feel about themselves, their attitudes and so forth, most of them actually still do not access higher education. Low quality and content of education, I've already talked about this, where you find that the quality that is offered is not good enough for a person to execute the task that they are given to execute. Or it's not innovative enough. You know, I also like that. It's not creative and innovative enough to push us from one step to the other. And this is what I still talk about, where you are fed with a lot of information, but again, you cannot perform a task. Then, non-cooperation among universities. And this is a problem again, where we find that the universities, what they are looking more is competition. Who is doing better? And I have seen, even in some partnership, where different universities are called upon to do a certain task. Even in their meetings, they want just to see who stands out. It's kind of a competition other than a cooperation among universities, where maybe they can even think of developing the same teaching contents, you know, the same curriculums, you know, but then we find that there's a lot of competition in this. Then research areas needed on higher education. These ones, there are many, we can also talk about them, but when you look at 2.3, there's access and gender equity, increased use of technology. This is now, we no longer don't have a choice about them. We have to just increase the use of technology, continuing professional development of the staff. We cannot keep on teaching how we used to teach long time ago. It is a new time that we have to face things differently. Establishment of capacity and reform and innovation, very important again, and diversifying finance, in fact, the sources. Proposed agenda, research agenda, This again, when you look at it, actually there are not many things that we can talk about this, but we are saying project areas for the proposed Center of Research on Higher Education in Kenya and East Africa include history and current status of higher education in Kenya and East Africa, very important, academic staff development, because it's also important actually when we look at the management of higher education, understand the history and the current status, understand the academic staff development, student development is very important, higher education and employment. And when we talk about higher education and employment, the only thing I talk about here is that we are training so much, but is what we are training in line with the labor market? How well, as the universities, how well do we carry out research in the labor market so that at least we can match what we are offering to the labor market, so that there is also, we can reduce the issue of unemployment. Then we also have the higher education and employment, more of what I have just talked about there, policy reforms and management, just understanding what is it that we need to bring forth so that we can address the issues that are affecting us.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.